If for some reason things don't go well, certainly they could look to deconstruct a little bit. I'm just looking at teams that are off to slower starts, sub 500 teams, and wondering if perhaps one or more of them will end up sellers. A year ago at this time, we had no idea the Mets would be sellers, and I'm kind of trying to anticipate in my own head where some of these teams might be going. And I labeled it as a thought exercise. It was just that. That said, the team that I'm really watching closely is Toronto because they seem to be reaching a crossroads. Bichette and Guerrero, one more year after this one. They've got some free agents this year. Kikuchi's most prominent among them. Next year, they've got a ton of free agents coming up. Bichette and Guerrero after 25. Jordan Romano, some others as well. Chris Bassett is on that list. At some point, this team either needs to play better or needs to make some hard decisions on the players that they have. And you can make the point right now, well, Bichette and Guerrero aren't really playing all that well, so they wouldn't have much value. Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, if you're not going to sign them long-term, and they might not even want to sign Guerrero long-term right now, then you've got to make some hard calls at some point. The other team that stands out to me, just because they're so interesting in so many ways, is San Diego. Now, San Diego is trying to win. They acquired Dylan Cease right before the season started. They want to get back into the playoff mix, of course. AJ Preller, their general manager, one of the most creative guys in the game. But the landscape for this team has changed. And let's say that come July 15th, July 20th, they're really not in great shape. They're kind of 5 games under, not that close to the wild card, not playing all that well. I'm not saying this will happen. I'm just painting a scenario here. At that point, I know you have the investments in Machado and Tatis and Bogarts, massive investments. And you've got some other big contracts as well. But do you look at trading Dylan Cease and getting a similar package back for what you gave up for him? And what does your ownership allow you to do? Because remember, this team cut payroll. Peter Seidler is no longer with us, and he was the driving force behind their ramp up. Well, maybe now they decide we're not going to trust AJ Preller to do this again, and let's go backwards a little bit. Maybe we won't even trust him to do that, but let's take another look at it. So that's another team that stood out to me, and Tampa Bay was the third, simply because they have not played well, and we know that if they don't see a path to success, and that's a playoff berth, by the deadline, they will be opportunistic. They will do some things. Their whole team has been shocking how poorly they've played. It's only 1 month, I know, but Arozarena, 4th worst OPS in the majors. Yandy Diaz, a great hitter, 21st worst OPS in the majors. Defense has not been good. Bullpen has not been good. They've allowed a lot of homers, on and on and on. So they've got to get it together, or yes, they could be a team that maybe looks to do some other things.
Okay, so I got to ask this while we're on this. You're talking about surprise teams. I'm going through the standings right now, and the AL Central, best division in baseball. Just saying.
It is right.
But there is another team that stands out to me, and I don't know that they would do it. A team that went to the World Series last year, the Diamondbacks. They're 14-18, and they're in 4th place right now. They got a Jordan Montgomery who's on a possible 1-year deal. I don't know. I think Eugenio Suarez might be a free agent after this year. They got a couple pieces that people could look at and say, man, I wouldn't, contending team. So would that be a team possibly that could surprise some people if they don't turn things around and get it going?
I mentioned them, AJ. I included them in a category I called NL West also-rans. Now, I don't know which teams are going to be the also-rans, the teams that may be fading in that division, if any. But the Dodgers, we all think, are going to win the division. And the question is, okay, which of the other 3, forget the Rockies, the Padres, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, are not going to be as good as we think? I would expect one of those teams will disappoint. So the Diamondbacks in that scenario, yes, Montgomery is a free agent. Sewald is a free agent. And they've got some other things that they could do. And keep in mind, they're carrying a club record payroll by some $30 million. They're well extended. Now, they did that because they went to the World Series and they increased their revenue because of that. And their owner, Ken Kendrick, explained this to me just after the Montgomery signing. Hey, we're plowing the money back into the team. But if for some reason things don't go well, certainly they could look to deconstruct a little bit. But keep in mind what this team is missing right now. And I know we can do this with every team, and it's kind of annoying at this point, but they're missing Perdomo, their shortstop. Blaze Alexander's played well, but he's not Perdomo. And they're missing Alec Thomas, their center fielder. Those two guys, strong up the middle defenders. It changes the entire defense when they're there. Carroll goes to right field. They're also missing Eduardo Rodriguez and Merrill Kelly. And they expect that those guys will return perhaps sometime in June. And then at that point, their rotation is among perhaps the best in baseball. I'm talking about Gallen and Kelly and Montgomery and Eduardo Rodriguez. That's a pretty good foursome. And then Sewald's also been down and injured, so he will be back presumably at some point as well. With all that going on, with all the potential that is unrealized right now, I can't imagine them being bad enough that they're going to want to sell. Remember, they were under 500 last August 11th or something. I think they were 200 at that point. And they rallied for the wild card, went to the World Series. Mike Hazen, their GM, is not a guy who gives up easily. They've never tanked. So it's a long shot, but there is a world out there. Yes, if everything collapses, then perhaps they will consider it.
Do you look at a team like the Pirates who started out first 10 games, it was like, whoa, the Pirates, neat story, in this trade talk land again? Or is that just easy cherry picking that you sit there and go, well, this year they picked up, a Marco Gonzalez, they picked up a Aroldis Chapman, they picked up guys that could, when they signed there, be trade pieces? Or is that not the Pirates' MO now because they're pushing to make the playoffs?
It shouldn't be their MO, Eric, frankly. Ben Sherrington, it's, I believe, year 5. We wrote about this in spring training. This is a big year for them. Their owner, Bob Nutting, has said he expects them to contend. Now, if they're out of contention, they'll do what they have to do, but that is not their idea. And remember, they've got a bullet to fire here. His name is Paul Skeens. We all know he's coming soon. Not going to be a savior. I don't know that any one player can be, especially a young pitcher who will be on some kind of innings limit, but they do expect their offense will be better than it's been the past couple of weeks. And they are a team that expects to take a step forward. If you deconstruct again, then where are you? I'm not saying that any of these pieces, Martin Perez, Marco Gonzalez, Aroldis Chapman, are absolute must-haves. It's not like that. But at the same time, they're trying to win games, and they need to build some positive momentum and get out of this rebuilding phase and kind of become what the Royals and Tigers are looking like right now in the other Central Division.
Okay, let's finish with a question on this article. It's 2 teams, Rays and Astros. Which team do you think is more likely to sell pieces at the trade deadline, considering that we need to see what the records look like? But if they are in a close range, but it's not great, do you think either of these teams would make a move like this, given that, the Astros do have plenty of pitching that has just come back for them right on the starting side? And I was looking up the Rays, a lot still coming back for them too. Taj Bradley, Shane Baz, etc. Right?
Rays have 13 players on the IL, second only to the Red Sox with 14. It's a ton of players. And it's basically the 2 top relievers, Fairbanks and Poche. It's the 3 left-handed hitters, Brandon Lau, Josh Lowe, Jonathan Aranda, and Taj Bradley. There are others as well, guys coming off Tommy John we won't even see. So that's part of it with them. I would say they're the more likely team to sell if they're not firing on all cylinders. The Astros, everyone expects, including I would think everyone talking right now among us, that they're going to be better. Now, how much better, I don't know. And they've dug themselves a pretty deep hole going 12 under 500. But they've built some momentum in recent days. They're playing a little bit better, not a whole lot better. And they are going to get some pieces back. Luis Garcia and Lance McCullers at some point will be back, and that will bolster their pitching as well. So I just can't imagine their owner, Jim Crane, a guy who has basically said the window is always going to be open here. I can't imagine them taking a step back. It would require them really to collapse for that to happen.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see either of them. I know you guys are a little lower on the Rays.
I'm not a huge. I think the Rays. This is the year where it finally catches up to them. They have too many guys out. they got off to a bad start, and the division is just hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Last year, remember, they started out 13-0, and they, the rest of the year they played 500. So you take that away. I know you can't, but then they were out in the playoffs in 2 games. I just think I think this is the year where all the injuries finally catch up to them. Listen, Kevin Cash and that whole staff and crew, I've said it on here before, I think is one of the best organizations in sports, if not the best, with what they're dealt with every year and what they deal with and their limitations. But eventually it catches up to you, and you got to remember Joe Madden and then Kevin Cash, they had all the run of playoffs, and they had to take a couple of years where all right, we kind of got to step back and reload a little bit. This feels like the way it started. This might be a year where they take a step back and say, all right, we're going to have to rethink this, and then boom, a year from now we might say, oh damn, the Rays are back again.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of pitching there, so we'll see.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.